Hey there, this is Dan. You're watching the Salty Sea, and I am wearing red because we now have the leaders for both the warbands that are going to be in Warcry Red Harvest, which is pretty sweet. So let's take a look, right? Because one of them's been out a week, one of them just came out today. There's a lot to talk about. The uh, the first one, the Slaughterborne. Actually, I think I want to just watch the video first. Let's start there. So here's the article that dropped today on Warhammer Community, and we're just going to jump right into the video. It starts off, after this first intro section with a very gravelly voice, and some of the dialogue here is interesting, right? Because um, the gods shall hear us part of it is really interesting. Also, I love the singing heads; are pretty funny. Um, But otherwise, we just get a lot of angles of this Slaughterborne gentleman, lots of trophies, a real love of the trophies thing, and then swear a pact before the dark gods is something I want to talk about as well. So you could see in the video he had a ton of different trophies beyond just the heads. Also in this picture, he's not holding them, so clearly it's something that you can do either way. Um, but some of these trophies are from the other warbands in Warcry, right? There's this Corvus Cabal one. I know some folks pointed out a few others. Um, and then also the swearing a pact before the dark gods, the um, talking about the oath and the path of ruin needing to stay happening. Um, that could go a bunch of different ways, right? But I think a lot of people interpreted that to mean that this is going to be the Dark Oath Warband. So going along with the Dark Oath Chieftain, the Dark Oath War Queen, that these will be the sort of tribes that they come from. And I think that that makes sense. There's a lot of the same iconography here. I'm not sure mechanically if that really means anything. Are they going to have kind of oath-themed abilities, or is the AOS War Scroll going to be a priest? Who knows, right? It does kind of continue to flesh out the roster of not Marauders. So, like Godsworn Hunt was like this, Untamed Beasts were a little like this, Spire Tyrants were like this, right? Like our friend here could just go right into the Spire Tyrants warband and fit in. Um, I know it's a slightly different aesthetic than the Dark Oath aesthetic, but it's still really playing with the same ideas. The armor is different, but the love of straps and skin is really similar. The sort of Conan the Barbarian, but in Warhammer. Is still a really similar aesthetic. I think, our buddy here with the flail and sword could just be the same as our buddy here with the sword and the heads. Um, so not that that's a bad thing, um, but it definitely puts him into a lineage and into something that GW is absolutely sort of stressing, not stressing, but like emphasizing right now. So the other one is the Broodmaster. Now, this came out last week, so I'll spend a little less time on it, but I still want to look at the video because I think that there's a lot to talk about there. And the reason I want to look at the video for the Broodmaster is partly, they mentioned the demonic menace in the in the article, which I think is important as far as the origins, but um, the video is the thing that kicked off, I think, a lot of people's really high hopes about the terrain and the chaos dwarfiness, I think, that a lot of people were hoping for. Um, lot that piece of terrain is already in some old Warcry products, but otherwise, they show you those things before they then get into the crazy spider whirlwind of blades kind of look. Now, I do actually really like this model. And sort of weave the hateful web. We don't actually know very much about what he's interested in, what their motivation is. Right. So that video, we get a really good look at him. We get look at um, the terrain, but we don't see a ton for, what they're up to. We just know they have a lot of swords. Assuming that the Eightfold Watcher that you saw in the subtitles there, that has to be Archaon, I'm assuming. But we really don't know what they're talking about when they talk about sort of the thing they're working on, right? What is the Ascension? We just know this is sort of a crazy, I would assume extremely fast fighter, right? Anytime they model someone um, sort of half off the ground where they're only supported by some uh, what is these are like bandages, silk bandages, something like that. That always means they're code for going really fast. I assume this is going to be sort of a classic glass cannon type of model, and those are often really fun in Warcry, so I'm looking forward to that. Four swords, I assume, means it has a lot of attacks. Um, the models with more attacks that do fewer damage tend to do more damage point for point than the ones with fewer attacks that do more damage. Um, but, you know, speculating on mechanically what it does, that could really be anything. Um, but still, just a really interesting model, really crazy off the wall model that I think also was part of what had so many people thinking that the other one would be off the wall as well. Um, because the the internet didn't really love the Slaughterborne reveal today. Um, you got a lot of people not raging actually, but in some ways worse than raging because if there had been a lot of internet rage, you know, that probably means a good thing. You want your creative projects to be either zeros or tens for people, right? If you have to choose, let's say you have to have the average be five, you want them all to be zeros or tens. You don't want sixes and fours because if people just kind of like something, they don't go buy it, right? They only go buy things that they really, really like. Um, which is why I kind of feel like this is worse for them, right? There's multiple people talking about how they wished for dwarves. There's a lot of people just going, that's nice, but I'm a little disappointed. And there were some excited people, right? It's not like that didn't happen. It's just that the overall tone was very quiet disappointment. And I think a big part of that is because of um, the way people sort of brought their hopes up for Chaos Dwarves, for potential Varangard. I know I was part of sort of the people predicting Varangard because of the sort of rhyme that they did with their teaser. Um, I think that might have been a mistake unless we see more, right? Some of the war bands that you see are they have multiple big models in them, um, and some have none really. Like when I showed that picture of all the Spire Tyrants, they're all just kind of normal people. Um, Unfortunately, that matchup, this for example makes a ton of sense, right? Having very normal for Warhammer normal, right? What is standard for Warhammer in this kind of Dark Oath person against some crazies. I think that makes a ton of sense. So I wouldn't expect to see our buddy the Slaughterborne being backed up by a bunch of Chaos Dwarves and Varangard. So I think fans who are hoping for those things are going to need to, either decide whether they're upset, which it seems like most of those people weren't. They were just kind of disappointed, and if that makes them not as interested here in this product. I do think it's kind of a shame for GW to have. Uh, I think they maybe didn't do a great job setting expectations. I think mentioning Varangard was um, probably not a great idea in that earlier trailer. I think um, you know, Gloomspite Gets fans were already sort of really hopeful that they were going to get something, and this isn't it. Because really what's happening is Warcry kind of going back to its roots of just chaos cultists smacking each other around for Archaon's amusement. And that's a good thing in that it's fun, and I get why you'd want to go back to the well for it. But the question is, do they need to evolve? Do you need to evolve your game, right? I think one of the things that Underworlds has done really nicely is each new setting in Underworlds has felt somewhat connected to the story. When they went into Beastgrave, that was really interesting and it worked with the story. Now they're in Harrowdeep, and it has a ton of people speculating over, you know, whether this portends interesting things going on with um, Malarion in the future, right? Shadow elves, because they've moved from um, the realm of beasts to Ulgu, the realm of shadows. So I would have loved to see Warcry do something like that because I think one of the things that made Catacombs incredibly effective was that the Khainite Shadow Stalkers, the thing that they were up to in Catacombs was directly relevant to the story. Here, at least it seems right now that that might not be the case, but who knows, right? We don't know that. It could be that this ascension that the spiders are working on actually does end up being important. I would love to see that come to pass if that's true. In the meantime, you know, we know kind of the flavor that we're going to be looking at with the two war bands. I'm excited for Saturday when they um, release the full contents of the box. Hopefully, cross our fingers. They might just give us a couple more models. Who knows? But um, yeah, when they give us the whole contents of the box, there will be a lot more to talk about. We can look at the whole warband as a whole. But until then, this is what we've got so far. So there it is. We have both leaders of the warbands. And, I wish that I could be coming into this with the biggest hype mode saying, they're blowing us away with what we've got here. But it does kind of make me worry that this Red Harvest could be a bit of a stopgap measure until we get to the next, Warcry 2.0, probably next summer. But, this is only the first tip of the iceberg, and we're going to find out on Saturday what we actually have on our hands here. So until then, may all your rolls be crits.